You're not going to get actually like clear on what you want to or should be doing until you start to take action. There's a certain level of clarity that will not come until you are taking action. Clarity comes in between the layers of action. That's probably going to be the best line of the video. So there you are at a fork in the road. Do you go to the right? Do you go to the left? Do you take this step first or that step first? Or do you do this kind of like big picture thing over here? Or do you do this organizational thing over there? When it comes to your kingdom work, there are a lot of steps, especially when you are trying to figure out how to actually get going and get momentum. There's a lot of steps that you need to take. And clarity typically is, it feels like the farthest thing from reality, where you tend to feel way more fuzzy and confused and unsure of what to do rather than focused and clear on the next step that you need to take. So that's what we're going to tackle today, because clarity is not as far off as you may feel that it is. And so I'm going to share with you what kind of like how clarity comes to us, how it typically comes. And I do also want to say, like, I am a huge fan of thinking and thinking through things, of taking a step back and figuring out where, just sort of just reevaluating life or life choices or kind of where you're headed, because I don't think that we tend to, or we can't, you can't pivot when you're running, right? Like if you think of if you're walking and you stop and you turn, you can like pivot, make a 180 pivot, or 180, 90, whatever, 45 degree angle, whatever, you can turn, right? You can, and you just like, you're stopping, you're turning. I've got all my angles. No, I guess 180 would be if you're turning around. Anyway, this thing is like tracking me again. I got to figure out how to just turn that off because I don't want it to do that. But I talk with my hands and then it keeps tracking. So, okay. But when you stop, you can turn, like you can say, okay, you know what, I'm like, when you're stopped, you can look at, am I going in the right direction? And if you're not, then you just turn to go in the right direction and then you keep moving. Whereas when you're running, then it's like our turns tend to be really like very big, right? And when it comes to life, thinking is like stopping and just standing and like when you take the time to think and reevaluate life, you can make very sharp turns very intentionally and get going in the right direction a lot faster than if you're just trying to figure life out as you're running. And so if you don't ever learn to slow down and think through things, you're not going to, it could take years before you actually reevaluate life and say, okay, is this actually like I've been running in these different directions. Is this like what I want to be doing? So all that to say, I'm a huge fan of thinking, but I have found that when it comes to clarity, you cannot think your way there. Like a lot of thinking and solving it out and kind of like knowing in theory what you want to be doing, that goes a very, very, very long way. But you're not going to get actually like clear on what you want to or should be doing until you start to take action. There's a certain level of clarity that will not come until you are taking action. So I want to just talk about, so my mom and I were talking about this yesterday, and it was like super clear, where we were just talking about like decluttering, right? So if you think of in your home, let's talk about your wardrobe, right? Or my wardrobe, I'll use that as an example. So when I want to get rid of stuff in my wardrobe, I can go to my wardrobe and I feel so overwhelmed, right? And I'm trying to make a whole bunch of decisions for, it's like I'm trying to get rid of the clutter in my wardrobe. I'm trying to make decisions on like let's say if I have electronics in my wardrobe, I'm trying to make like that layer of decisions. And then I'm also trying to get rid of everything, all the pieces of clothing that I don't want, while at the same time, I want to get down to like a minimalist kind of wardrobe. So I'm making like layers upon layers upon layers, or I'm expecting myself to be able to make layers upon layers of decisions with my wardrobe all at one time. Whereas that's near impossible, just because it's too overwhelming, it's too much, and you're not really going to make the good decisions. So what I have found with many things, but using my wardrobe as an example, is that it's almost like clarity is like, if you think of it like cake, right? It's like, so you've got a layer of cake, layer of icing, layer of cake, layer of icing, layer of cake. So the first layer, when you take, you need to take some kind of action, even if you don't know what it is. Like if you might say, okay, I could do this step or I could do that step, but you don't really know which one. Pick one, make a choice, just pick one, because at best you're going to make a choice in one direction and run with it. At worst, you're going to know that, well, that choice that I thought that should have done is not the right one. So then you pivot and you go you redirect and you keep going. So then, okay, so with the layer of cake, because you can't make like clarity comes in between the layers of action. That's probably going to be the best line of the video. So if you want clarity, you need to begin taking action. And because it's like when you get rid of that first layer, the wardrobe, if I get rid of that first layer of stuff and I just like clear out all the junk and everything that shouldn't be in my wardrobe, not even touching the clothes yet, I'm just getting rid of all the excess, whatever, right? So I get rid of that, and then I don't, oops, we're tracking us again, don't want that. So then you get so whatever. So you stop touching it. This keeps happening. Okay. So you act on it, you get rid of the junk. And oh my goodness, that just keeps happening. Whatever, we're just gonna let it track because it just keeps, because I talk with my hands. Okay, so what was I saying? So the first layer is you get rid of the clutter in your closet, and then you don't touch it for the rest of the day. You sleep on it. By the next morning, you're going to have clarity, because now that you're not, whenever you look at your closet, now you're not just seeing a bunch of junk. Now you can actually deal with, like, okay, what's that next layer? And then whatever that next easy or clear layer is, then you deal with that. By the next day, you're going to have, you'll hit another layer of clarity. And so then you act on that, and you keep on doing that until you've gotten to the end, or until you're like, okay, yeah, this is where I wanted it to be. But you cannot, as annoying as it is, you can't think your way to that end. Like, where if you said for 7 days, I'm going to work on my wardrobe, each day, like the clarity that you're going to have on day 5, you cannot, like you can't think your way there on day 1. You have to actually be taking action each of those days in order to get to those layers of clarity. So you take action, whatever is obvious, and it's not about taking the right action, right? There is no right action. You just have to take some kind of action. Do the thing that seems like the most obvious or the most clear. And as time goes on, like, it's not even, I've done things in relation to my YouTube channel where months ago it seemed like the most obvious thing, and by now it's like I'm not even touching or doing anything with whatever that was, right? But at the time that seemed right, and so I took action on it. And then a week later, I was like, I got clarity. I was like, you know what, that's actually more of a distraction, or isn't helpful, so I'm going to leave that and I'm going to keep moving. All of those pieces is just so important for those beginning stages of your kingdom work, whereas you're doing that thing that's on your heart to do for Jesus, you aren't going to know what to do right away. And it's more about just building that resilience. And it's about having an idea, making a choice, and then moving forward, just doing daily, weekly, whatever, taking some kind of action in the right direction. And as you do that, the clarity is going to come. And so it's sort of like, it's okay to put out a whole bunch of effort, and it's not, okay, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to deal with that really unhelpful idea that we expect ourselves to get it right the first time, right? It's like, make the purpose just like to take action. Let that be the goal for a time, where as long as you're taking action, it's kind of like take action, and hopefully 2 out of 10 things are going to be a hit, and then the other 8 can be a miss. It's not about getting it right. Like there is no right with this. When you're learning and you're trying to figure out what to do, and you're trying to get clear on what to give time to and what not to give time to, then it's just start taking action. Again, layers of cake. You take action, then you get clarity. You take action, you get clarity. But you will not get that like those layers of clarity that come after you take action. You can't get that all at once, and you cannot get that without taking action. Because some of you are going to have something that you have wanted to act on, and it's been on your mind for decades, possibly, right? So you've got something that you've wanted to act on for a really, really, really long time. And then once you start acting on that and doing something about it, the clarity is going to come and you realize this isn't at all what I really want to be doing. Like maybe it's something that you were so sure that you should be giving time to. And then you start doing that. And then you realize like, this isn't me whatsoever. And that you don't actually feel called to this thing and you know, that clarity is really good. It's uncomfortable because it's like, I've been thinking I was supposed to do this for so long. And now once I've started doing it, I'm like, I don't actually want to do this. This is a distraction. And I want to actually be giving my time to this other thing over here. That isn't a failure. That's clarity. And that clarity is good. It's uncomfortable because sometimes it's really hard for us when we give a lot of time, like a lot of time in the sense of there's something that we've been working to for a really long time, or it's been on our mind to do for a really long time. And then we start doing it and we realize like, no, I can let that go. It's an uncomfortable thing, and it sometimes feels like a failure. But in my books, you're all done? In my books, that is such a win. All right, so I have a 3-year-old that needs me, so I'm gonna have to run right away. But let's wrap this up with what would the question be? Question or questions or thought or like action steps? Because when we're talking about clarity, we're talking about action steps. So this might be something in your home, right, that you can just start to put this into practice with. Actually, you know what? I was going to make it like, you know, it's like, what's that next action step that you can take towards your kingdom, to doing your kingdom work well? And it might be that, but what's something in your home that is just like, it's just kind of been sitting there or frustrating you, or where you feel like you're trying to figure out how to do 10 things or 10 steps all at once. Pick that thing, whether might be your kingdom work, it might be your food, your pantry, your freezer, it might be your closet, it might be your car, and go and just do the next, whatever is the most obvious thing, just do that thing. Knowing that you can come back tomorrow and you can come back the next day and the day after and the day after, as long as you need to until it's done. But every time, just do the first layer, because we just overwhelm ourselves with trying to do a bunch of layers all at once, and we want to like just get it from point A to point B, and that is like the amount of mental energy that takes is exhausting. And you're probably like, again, the clarity, even if you push yourself to like figure out your closet in one day, the amount of clarity that you are going to have after day 7 is totally different than you are going to have after hour 7 today, right? If you just kind of kept going at it today, you could spend 8 hours doing it, but you're not going to have that same amount of clarity because you need that rest time in between to have the clarity. So whatever it is, just go start to put this into practice. Whatever, if there's an area in your home, just pick an area or in your life and go and clear just that first layer. It might be just cleaning up the garbage. It might be sending 3 things away to the secondhand store. It might be, you know, where you go and look at it and you're like, I actually need to figure out, like, get just 10 recipes added that I've been like, because maybe you've got a pile of beans like I have, and you need some recipe options so that you actually know how to use those beans, right? So it's not sometimes that next step isn't the obvious step. And that's at the beginning where I was talking about the whole thinking thing, right? Where thinking is really important, where you're pausing long enough to actually figure out what is it that I need to do. So you pause. It's not just about jumping into action, but you're actually like give a little bit of time to thinking, make a decision, and know clear, like decide what are you going to do, what action are you going to take, go and take that action, and then stop and rest. Stop thinking about it, stop acting on it. You rest, you wait till the next day or maybe the next week, and then you'll get a new layer of clarity. And then you get that clarity, you think, you decide, you choose, you act, you rest. And that rhythm will create a huge impact on your home and in like area after area of your home. It's really fun. Once you start to put this into practice, it's a lot of fun, goes a really long way. And I hope you have as much success as I've had with this. It's almost like annoyingly simple and feels like it doesn't work, but it works. And so I hope you will give it a shot and then just also be convinced at how well this works and how it's a gentle way of making huge impact in your life. Okay, to end, again, subscribe button, like this video if it was helpful for you. And also you can sign up for the 5-day free Step of Faith mini course below. And lastly, read your Bible and oh my goodness, I always forget how I say this. Remember to read your Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part. One of these days, it's just going to start rattling off my tongue. But until then, see you all next time.